ouch, what a gut punch for the Golden State Warriors as the Thunder rally from 18 down in the second half. They, at one point, had a 6-point lead, but then the Warriors were able to flip that. Some big-time shot-making down the stretch in regulation. So many things went right for the Warriors in this game. You get Stephen Curry back. He goes for 25. You get Andrew Wiggins with his best scoring game of the year, and Wiggins making huge plays for Golden State down the stretch. Kevon Looney in the closing lineup. How about Wiggins with 13 of his 31 in the fourth quarter? He was feeling it. He wanted the rock. Stephen Curry couldn't quite convert on a couple of layups, but on that second one, Kevon Looney's able to grab the rebound, spin a pass out to Andrew Wiggins, who buries what looks like it's the game-winning three, and you're feeling like the Warriors are going to survive a game that they really, really needed to get. But Chet Holmgren able to throw in that three from the corner. Andrew Wiggins on him. So much to debate. Should the Warriors have fouled in that situation with 1.6 seconds to go? But you add it all up, and this is, if you can have a catastrophic loss in November, I think that's as catastrophic as a loss can be in November as the Warriors fall in OT to the Thunder, 130 to 123. They get outscored in the overtime, 13-6. Spectacular individual performances on the Thunder side of things. Got to tip your cap to both Chet Holmgren, who had a career-high 36, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who had 10 of his 40 in the overtime. 10 of the 13 for Oklahoma City in the overtime went to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was getting bucket after bucket and then blocked Steph Curry's three into a layup to help all but ice the game for Oklahoma City. So this one hurts. 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. It is Warriors wrap-up here on 95.7 The Game. If you're in the area, leaving the ball game, stop by, say hi at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. I am sipping on a Kolsch, as always. Cheers to everybody watching on YouTube tonight. And, man, there are a lot of people drowning their sorrows coming off of this Warriors loss to Oklahoma City. The numbers are not good, folks, as you look at the Warriors now with what is their sixth consecutive loss after starting the season 6-2. They're 0-5 on the six-game homestand now, with losses to Cleveland, a pair to Minnesota, a pair to Oklahoma City, who completes the sweep of the little two-game mini-series. And the Warriors are 1-6 at home, still with just one home win for Golden State. The Klay Thompson shot with 0.2 of a second against Sacramento. The only home win for the Warriors, 5-2 on the road, now 6-8 overall. And you waste Steph Curry's return tonight. You waste Andrew Wiggins' best offensive game of the season tonight. You waste a game where the Warriors outscore the Thunder bench 33-18, and it seemed like there was some semblance of maybe a little bit of order restored, but the Warriors just let the Thunder get right back into this game in the third quarter with turnovers. Warriors had pushed to their biggest lead at 81-63, and the Warriors turned it over multiple times in a row. And it was the first time Andrew Wiggins and Klay Thompson had 15 or more points in the same game in a couple of weeks. Klay, we'll get to him in a second, because Klay was playing really well alongside Andrew Wiggins until the fourth quarter, and then he took some of the worst shots you'll ever see a player take. He ends up 5 of 13. He was 5 of 7. So Klay Thompson missed his last 6 shots, and 4 of the 6 were as bad shots as you'll ever see an NBA player take. And I'll tell you this, if there was ever a night where Steve Kerr was going to pull Klay Thompson from a game in the closing minutes or in overtime, it would have been tonight. Now, Kerr's on record saying he's not going to do that in all likelihood, and I think you could make a case, well, who would have been a better option tonight if you were going to take Klay Thompson out of a game? But he absolutely killed the Warriors with his shot selection in the final couple of minutes, which it looked like the Warriors were going to overcome, thanks in part to some Kevon Looney defense and the big offensive rebound, and Andrew Wiggins just going off the way that he did down the stretch of this game. So it looked like they were going to overcome some really poor shots taken by Klay Thompson, but when Chet Holmgren hits the three at the buzzer to tie the game at 117, you got to go win it again, and unfortunately the Warriors could not win it again in the overtime. And so, as I mentioned, they waste Curry's return. They waste Wiggins, what would have been a real feel-good victory and feel-good night for him. And frankly, it's almost as if it didn't happen. And so the Warriors' big picture have got to be hoping that Andrew Wiggins is going to play much more like the player that we saw tonight over an extended period. And if he's able to do that, then the Warriors are probably going to be better for it and have an opportunity to get on a run. But to be unable to stop the bleeding in a game like tonight is just it's just a gut punch. I mean, a major league gut punch for Golden State. So 888-957-9570, everything's fair game. Steve Kerr did address the Warriors not fouling with 1.6 seconds to go. I'll lay it out as the callers get to it. My stance on it, I am not as adamant, I'll just put it this way, as the television voice of the Warriors, Bob Fitzgerald, is in terms of you always have to foul in that particular situation. I understand, I respect Fitz's point. I was in the arena, obviously, in that moment, and I always go back to something that Rick Adelman said in my days growing up and as a young reporter and host working in Sacramento when Rick Adelman was coaching those great Kings teams. He would always say you really have to be sure that you can trust your team and that the situation is right, that it's not an automatic to foul up three. And I think at times we've seen the Warriors not do it because Steve Kerr explained there's too much time left in the game to do it. I think we've also seen tonight might be an example where there wasn't enough time left in the game because with the catch-and-shoot nature of 1 and 6/10 seconds, you're almost automatically going to be fouling a player as he's trying to get in his motion to shoot a three. And the one thing you can't have is fouling the three-point shooter in that particular situation. That being said, watching Wiggins, you could just crash into him. Like on the inbounds, ball gets released, just crash into him. At that point, before he even has an opportunity to secure the ball, you got to do it before the ball is out of the inbounds passer's hands, but just crash into him. He goes to the free throw line. Chet Holmgren did miss one free throw in the game tonight, but then you make it a lot more difficult. Can you make the first couple, and then you miss one, and then, again, at that point, you're talking about maybe under a second by the time the foul occurs, or slightly over a second, where you have the ability to try and scramble for an intentional miss and all of that, which is what the Thunder would have needed if the Warriors had been able to foul. So 888-957-9570. Let's get to the phones. Let's get it rolling. It is Adam in San Jose, and we got a lot of people that want to talk here tonight on Warriors Wrap-Up. What's going on, Adam?
What's up, JD? So it looks like last year's road woes are going to be this year's home woes. I was never really worried about Andrew Wiggins because Wiggins is still in his prime. He's still young. He's still, physically there. And even during his offensive slump, he was decent defensively. On the other hand, Klay, he was back to forcing terrible shots today and then just disappearing defensively. My biggest question is, when is the organization going to wake up and realize that in today's NBA, the small ball stuff doesn't work anymore? We need some size. We need someone big.
Yeah, that to me, Adam, that's not tonight. Thanks for the call. I'm sorry, that's not tonight. I mean, the Thunder play four wings, a couple of guards, couple of wings, and Chet Holmgren. And Chet Holmgren was spectacular, but he was doing it to Kevon Looney tonight, who's an excellent defender for the most part. And Chet is a different animal because he's able to get out on the perimeter and drive by you, and he's really good, down low off the drive and basically kick game. The Thunder get a lot of head of steam and like to drive and get into the paint, kick out for threes. Holmgren's really good at getting to the right spot. So if the defense collapses, you find Holmgren, and then Holmgren can go to work and Holmgren can cook. He was phenomenal tonight. But again, no big, slow, plodding big is going to be playing Chet Holmgren down the stretch of a game or for the bulk of a 37-minute affair. This isn't a matter of – and look, you probably would have seen Draymond Green on the floor tonight battling Chet Holmgren. So the reality is, if the Warriors had been full strength in this one, they would have gone smaller against Holmgren and tried to run him on both ends of the floor and try to let Draymond, as an underman player, hang with him and rough him up a little bit and get physical with him. So all due respect, Holmgren had an unbelievable game, and he looks like a terrific young player. But tonight isn't the night where I'm going to say, bigs in terms of that. And if you want to talk to me about paint points, that's fine. The Thunder did dominate in the paint, 54-36. But to me, it's more about dribble penetration than it is about big men. And I think we've seen that in the 3 matchups against OKC. We've seen that against Cleveland a couple of times now this season. We saw it a little bit against the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's the fact that it's the wings and the guards that have the ability to get downhill and get to the bucket, and the Warriors have had an inability to keep their man in front of them defensively, which I think has been the bigger problem. And for as great as Andrew Wiggins was offensively and as much as the Warriors needed it, tonight was not Andrew Wiggins' best floor game or defensive game. 1 rebound tonight for Wiggins in the time that he played, 35 minutes. He kept the ball moving a little bit, but I don't think he was excellent defensively. It was much more of an offensive night than a defensive night for Andrew Wiggins. He had a tough time with some wing players that really can pose problems. And so to me, it's more youth and wing-type players that are the issue of the night. Ace and Marin next here on Warriors Wrap-Up. Hey, Ace, you're on 95.7 The Game.
JD, how you doing, bud?
I'm good.
JD, you there?
I got you, Ace. What do you got for me tonight?
Oh, you kind of stole my thunder, no pun intended. What my big takeaway was, in the paint, the Thunder just killed the Warriors. They had no defense down there, and it was almost automatic. I mean, Gilgeous-Alexander is a fantastic player, obviously, but it was too easy for them. It seemed like really the issue was not the Warriors' offense; it was the lack of pressure on the Thunder.
Real comfortable, and the Warriors had made them uncomfortable in the second quarter, but they got real comfortable when the ball started being turned over by the Warriors in the third quarter. That's what started the whole thing. 81-63, Warriors are up 18. You got Wiggins and Klay Thompson both playing well. Curry is out there and doing his thing, although he didn't shoot it well overall in his return. Did hit 4 threes for another 12 out of 12 for Curry in the 12 games he's played as far as making at least 4 threes. Scores 25 points. Again, couple of the shorties that he missed, couple of the driving layups late. Looney with an incredible job grabbing the rebound and kicking it out to Wiggins for what looked like it was going to be the game-winning 3 before Holmgren hit his. But I think what's interesting is it's a scenario where they got to be better on ball, and they had the Thunder uncomfortable in that second quarter, but then the turnovers allowed Oklahoma City to keep fighting. They quickly got back in the game. There were a couple of Kuminga turnovers. Kuminga actually hustled back and got a stop on one of them, but from an 18-point game, it went down to 10 in a blink, and then it was down to 5, and then you thought, wow, the Thunder really didn't have any trouble scoring the basketball the rest of the night. And so I think sometimes you miss your window in certain games to put a team away, and the Warriors missed their window to put the Thunder away when they had them down 18 in that third quarter, and the turnovers in that quarter. You look at the end of the night, 16 is not terrible for the Warriors, all told, only 2 in the fourth quarter, but the Warriors ended up with 6 turnovers in the third quarter, which was catastrophic. And again, allowed a lot of careless plays to allow Oklahoma City back in the game. And it was Kuminga and it was Klay Thompson a couple of times in that stretch that allowed Oklahoma City to get back in it, get it close enough to where they felt like they still had a shot to steal the game, and then also get it close enough to where it got their offense back in a rhythm to where it was basically back and forth from that point on. JP in Union City is next here tonight on Warriors Wrap-Up of 95.7 The Game. JT, what's going on? Or JP, rather, what's going on tonight in the Union?
JD, what's up, man? Dude, I just came from the game, and I purposely wore my Klay jersey because I was like, you know what? I'm going to speak this to existence. We're going to find a way to make it happen. The first half, he was great. Second half, he was just terrible. I think you guys are hitting it right on the head. Our defense is not there. We need everything to win on offense. I think we did enough. We did exactly what we needed to do, but the rotations are bad. Like when you see the doubles on Shea, and then what happens is that when they come to the double, the rotation is off, and you have your rolling man Chet just going for dunks all freaking day. I'm going to put this absolutely 100% on Kerr. Kerr, fantastic coach from what he's done. He needs to stop being a life coach and start being a basketball coach. I understand what he's doing, and he's trying to help Klay with his mindset and get him there mentally, but he has to be a coach and put the best players on there. I can guarantee you, if Moody or Kuminga was in there other than Klay, hands down, I'm pretty sure we would win the game. So I think Kerr needs to do a better job at stop playing with people's personalities and their feelings and their emotions and start playing with IQ and basketball skill. And I think once he does that, we can start winning again.
Thanks for the call, JP. Look, first half Klay was good. Second half Klay was yikes. And he took, and I marked him, he took 4 of the worst shots you'll ever see in moments down the stretch or in overtime when the Warriors really, when he was defended or there was still time on the shot clock. It wasn't like heat check, I'm open, I'm going to take it. They were forces. They were, I'm not open, I'm well defended. It was almost as if, and again, I don't want to get inside a guy's head, but it was almost as if Klay was like, you know what? Everybody else is kind of doing their thing. I'm not really part of it right now. I'm going to try to make something happen to put this game away, to ice it, or to have a dagger-type play. The defensive rotations were really bad. And again, it starts with the dribble penetration. Some of it, I think, is not having Draymond out there as the free safety to kind of make sure everybody gets in the right spot and knows what's coming. But a lot of it is basic. You got to be able to keep your man in front of you, and you got to be able, if the ball is stopped and a pass is made to the wing or a pass is made to the corner, you got to be flying around. And the Warriors, too often, Oklahoma City would get a good look from the outside, or the ball would get kicked to the side, and the rotation would be slow, and it would be an easy blow by in the corner, and then Kevon Looney has to come up, or the big man has to come up, and it's an easy dump off to Chet Holmgren, and Chet Holmgren's having his way. Or Chet Holmgren's going to the free throw line because you're reacting slow and you're fouling him and you're putting him on the free throw line. So, again, we can talk about, well, Draymond this, Draymond that. Yeah, maybe Draymond Green helps, but Draymond Green is Draymond Green's reason that he's not playing tonight, not any kind of bad luck or unfortunate circumstances or injury or anything like that. All right, before we continue on the phones, let's go ahead and pause here for our station ID as this is the 9 o'clock hour here at 95.7 The Game.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube. Powered by First NorCal Credit Union.
All right, John Dickinson back here at Harmonic Brewing. Still open. Stop by, say hi if you're in the area and looking for something to do. We got a pretty packed house tonight here, Saturday night. People staying dry, having a brew, enjoying a little bit of grub before heading off into the night here on a Saturday. Warriors lose to the Thunder for a second consecutive game, 130 to 123. Warriors have dropped now 6 in a row after the 6-2 start. Now 6-8 on the season. And about Klay Thompson, and we'll get to when the last time the Warriors had lost 6 in a row, because it's only happened one other season in the Steve Kerr era, and it was not a good season for the Warriors. If there was ever a night to pull Klay Thompson out of a game down the stretch, it would have been tonight. But if you do it tonight, I do think there's a question of, well, who do you put in at that point? I mean, again, and I get, Kuminga played well offensively tonight, although he was a minus 18. He did play well offensively. Like, you're not playing Kuminga and Wiggins, and Curry and Chris Paul. It's like, if you were going to finish with Kuminga, you were going to finish with Kuminga at the 5, not with Kuminga at the 2. And so you look at that, that's not, we get into this all the time. Players or fans want certain players to not play and other players to play, but often the suggestions are not positional fits in what the Warriors do. So if you want to make a case for Moses Moody, I'm not making a case for Podziemski tonight. He was a minus 15. Tough night for Podziemski defensively. Moses Moody's probably the one player where you can say, all right, but if you do that, you're opening a whole can of worms. I mean, if you do that, then Klay's getting asked about it, and we already know Klay is the kind of player that it takes everything extremely hard right now. And if you sub him out, you're basically putting him on blast, and you're telling him he ain't the dude he used to be. And then you got to deal with, what does Klay Thompson think of that? And it kind of takes on a life of its own. Look, Steve Kerr has said over and over and over and over and over, they're ride or die with Klay Thompson. So, again, I think you could make the case tonight there wasn't an alternative. But when Steve Kerr says, hey, Klay Thompson's pressing, tonight was a perfect example of that in the second half. In the first half, I don't think he pressed. He let the game come to him. It was one of those solid 5 of 7 Klay Thompson games, first halves. Real nice for 3 quarters, 5 of 7, 16 points. You can win with that. 3 of 4 from 3, and then he goes 0 for 6 in the fourth quarter in overtime, and that's what you can't live with. 0 for 3 with 3 bad shots, a couple of really doozies in the late fourth quarter, and a couple in overtime. 4 of the 6 shots that he missed of the consecutive were just as tough as it absolutely positively can get. So again, I think hindsight 2020, but there wasn't a player crushing it off the bench to where you're going to take out a future Hall of Famer and a guy that you believe is always going to be making the next clutch shot. So I get not ripping him out of the game at that point. I totally understand that. To me, it's not even a question tonight about ripping him out of the game. It's a question of take some better shots. Just, don't be forcing. You go all game without forcing it, and then you take some really bad ones down the stretch. And so, it's having that awareness that we talk about so many different times that I think there's these little lapses in awareness of the game situation and the night that he's having. And look, sometimes it's not even the night that he's having. Some nights it is as simple as, hey, he's playing great. He's hot in the first half. He's not hot in the second half. But, again, that's a balance for Steve Kerr and for Klay Thompson. And, yes, Klay was going through something really similar this same time last year, and he was able to snap out of it. And Steve Kerr mentioned here on 95.7 The Game a couple of days ago just the simple fact, it was yesterday, that they believe Klay notoriously gets off to slow starts. And so there will be some kind of bounce back or something like that coming to where his overall numbers get close to where he has had them in his career. And even that happened last year. The problem, though, is, and it remains, and I'm going to keep saying this, the bad Klay Thompson games get you beat, almost automatic. And now the bad Klay Thompson halves, in part, get you beat, along with the poor defense and the sloppy turnovers in the third quarter and all of those things. All right, 888-957-9570. Robert in Fremont is next here on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Robert.
Hey, JD. How you doing, man? I really enjoy the show. I think you provide a lot of insight.
Appreciate that,
Hello?
Robert. Thank you. Yeah, I got you, Robert. Sorry, man. I'm out here at Harmonic, and I'm trying to hear you with the music, and everybody's having a good time. But I got you loud and clear.
Yeah, no problem, man. No, I wanted to talk about the team defense, because if we kind of look back and go in the last few years, the Warriors' defense was so good that it would pick up the offense on off nights, especially, somebody like Klay Thompson, perfect example. He used to be one of the premier defenders in the league, would guard, Kawhi, Paul George, guys like that. And nowadays, you can't count on him for defense at all. And to me, this season's giving a lot of the same vibes as the year with Kelly Oubre when they lost in the play-in.
Thanks for the call, Robert. This year right now reminds me, I'm not going to go as far as 2021. It reminds me of last year now, where it's basically you better stay healthy. I guess the stay healthy part may be more 2 years ago, because the Warriors did win some games without Steph. But this year, more than even last year, you better stay healthy, number one, and you better win a lot of games when you have everybody or close to everybody. And the refrain that it really feels like is coming for this season that reminds me of last season is I can already feel like we're heading toward the Warriors, from December, January on saying, well, we get to 6, nobody's going to want to play us. And they're not wrong in saying that. Like, I don't disagree with that stance. But if this team puts itself in a position where it can't get a top 4 seed, they're not winning an NBA championship or even contending for an NBA championship in all likelihood beyond a second round of the playoffs. Like, I think this team can win in the 40s and knock off somebody in a first round, but they're not going to have all that it's going to take to win multiple rounds or win 3 rounds to get to a finals or win 4 rounds to win an NBA championship. I think that's just point blank, bottom line, end of story for where the Warriors are at this point. So, it's just not a good situation. It's a long season. I had somebody come at me on Twitter and said, hey, there's no such thing as a catastrophic loss in November. I think this is as close as you can get to having a catastrophic loss because you're thinking you're getting to 7-7. You're thinking you're riding the ship with Steph Curry coming back. You're thinking that Andrew Wiggins had a breakout game that he can now build on, and you waste all of it. And now not only are you not back to 500 at 7-7, you still don't have a win on this homestand, and now there's no way you're going to be over 500 again at a minimum until a week for a week. And you got to win the next 3 games to do it. So, this team is just going to linger at 500 now for probably pretty close to the next 2 weeks. And so, all of these other teams are going to have opportunities to separate. And look, the Thunder are one of the teams that has separated to this point. They are now 9-4, and they have won a couple of games at Chase Center. And we'll see what happens as far as the in-season tournament and all of that. And if these two teams end up playing each other another time, all of these teams in the group portion have basically played each other. They're going to play each other 3 times, and then we'll see if they need to play each other a 4th time. If the teams that don't qualify for the round of 8 and the possibility to be playing in the semifinals or finals in Vegas. So, it becomes a situation where, tiebreakers and all of that stuff. The Warriors have already dropped a couple to Minnesota. The Warriors have already dropped a couple to Oklahoma City. And they're up against it now. And so, I think this was a really, 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 really tough loss. Given the circumstances, because you feel like you stabilize some things, and now not only do you not stabilize, but now you got to make up for the fact every game you get under 500 is 2 games you have to win to get closer to 500. And so that's where when you get to where the Warriors are now at 6-7 and then 6-8, it just makes the climb all the more difficult. And we saw the Warriors have to try to make that climb last year, and it just wasn't working. And it took them till April to get to 44 wins. And again, I don't think this team's going to be as good as last year's team when Steph Curry has to miss games. 0-2 so far this year, 14-12 last year. If this team has to play 26 games without Steph Curry, I don't think they're winning 14 of them. So how are you going to make up for that when Curry is on the floor? Well, you make up for it by not slipping up in games like tonight. All right, Ali Kampa in Fremont. What's going on, Ali Kampa?
Hey, my brother, I'm very mad. I was doing Uber, and I thought the game over, brother. I turned the game off. I thought the Warriors going to win. So I come back, I see they lose. I'm very mad, my brother. Time to make a trade. Klay Thompson, my brother. I'm very angry. I'm cussing India right now. You don't want to know what
all right, Ali Kampa, we gotta dump that. We gotta dump that. Even if you're swearing in other languages, we gotta dump that. Sorry, Ali Kampa. Appreciate that. Can't have that. Can't have it in any language. that can get everybody in trouble with the FCC. I don't know anybody that would have turned it off with Andrew Wiggins making that 3. So I think maybe Ali Kampa's running material. It is a Saturday night, but to me, it was almost cathartic watching Wiggins do what he did with the 13 points in the fourth quarter, I would think if you're a Warrior fan, you're basically wanting to revel in what was an awesome, you got Looney stops Chet Holmgren on the other end. Holmgren missed the layup. I don't think Looney had much to do with it, but Looney gets the rebound, and then Curry misses one of two driving little floating layups, which is always a surprise when those don't go in. And one of them didn't go in Denver, which started this losing streak going back now 10 days ago in Denver at the end of that road trip. Kevon Looney, though, gets the rebound, secures it. Quintessential Looney play, finds a kick out for Wiggins. Wiggins wanted the shot. Wiggins wanted a couple of the buckets that he knocked down the stretch, and Wiggins freaking buried it. And so it was like Wiggins is back, that kind of moment. But then Chet Holmgren throws in the three right in front of Wiggins. The Warriors don't foul. We'll get to what Steve Kerr had to say about not fouling coming up here on 95.7 The Game. But it just winds up being something that you really, really can't feel good about, the way that it all goes down. And I said this to somebody walking out of the arena and heading over to Harmonic. This is the kind of loss, the way that it happened, in the circumstances of the Warriors losing 6 in a row for the first time since 2020. You got to go back to February of 2020, the 15 and 50 before everything shut down due to COVID. It was like 2 weeks before COVID, the last time the Warriors lost 6 in a row. And the only time they've done it in the Steve Kerr era, in that 15 and 50 season. And you look at losing all of these home games. Last time the Warriors had lost 5 straight at home, it was the week before COVID. It was January 22nd of 2020 to March the 5th of 2020. So they lost 10 straight at that point at Chase Center, the worst streak in the Chase Center era. But we're talking about lows that go back to that 15 and 50 year where Curry and Klay Thompson were both out and Draymond Green was missing games, and the whole thing got shut down due to COVID on March 11th. So rough times that waste Andrew Wiggins' season high in points in 47th career game where he had 30. Just tough stuff to swallow. And the first game in nearly a year that Andrew Wiggins had 30. You got to go all the way back to December 3rd of 2022, the last time that Andrew Wiggins had 30 or more points against the Rockets. 888-957-9570. We do still have a couple of minutes here for some more phone calls on Warriors wrap-up on 95.7 The Game. Let's go ahead and get to our extending the three-point line for tonight. It's brought to you by West Coast Men's Health.
Down to 15 seconds. Curry with the ball on the far sideline, right where it says Chase Center. Paul sets the screen. Curry with Wallace trailing him. Head fake. Drives down the lane. Stops and pushed the bank shot up. No good. Looney got the rebound. Out to Wiggins for three. It's up. It's good! It's good! 1.6 on the clock. The Warriors go up 117, 114. Time out. Thunder.
Yeah, what a call from Tim Roy tonight, right here on 95.7 The Game. Andrew Wiggins showing emotion. His 5th three-point make. It's rare the Warriors lose when Andrew Wiggins makes that many threes and does it that efficiently. It felt like, all right, Andrew Wiggins is back. 12 of 19, 31 points, high man on the team. And then Chet Holmgren throws in that three to send it to overtime, and everything goes awry for the Warriors in those final 5 minutes. But Andrew Wiggins, this is going to be a clean sweep for Wiggins as far as our postgame sponsor features. Wiggins is the extending the three-point line three-pointer of the night. Brought to you by West Coast Men's Health, successfully treating men for ED and chronic pain. Visit westcoastmenshealth.com for more details. Andrew Wiggins with what looked like it was going to be the three-pointer of the night and the game-winning three-pointer for the Warriors, but it wound up being all for naught. All right, our hardest worker of the game is coming up here on 95.7 The Game. I do want to get into what Steve Kerr said in the post-game press conference with regard to the Warriors choosing not to foul in the final couple of minutes. In the final couple of seconds with 1.6 seconds to go. Kerr said, we only wanted to foul if it was a clean foul. And I laid this out at the top of the show, and I'll just reiterate. With 1.6, it's almost so little time. It's almost so little time that you're worried that any shot the opposition is going to take is going to turn into a foul. And again, I go back to Rick Adelman, the first coach I ever covered as I was working in the media and doing post-game shows and doing shows and being a reporter when I was working back in Sacramento a long, long time ago. And Rick Adelman would always say, you have to be absolutely sure that you trust your team to execute that foul and that not every situation is created equal. Adelman rarely fouled in that situation. A lot of coaches always foul in that situation. I know the debate on it for those that foul, it's cut and dry. They don't want to hear the opposite side. I think there's a little more gray area on that. And I would put, obviously, TV voice Bob Fitzgerald in that category of basically 99% you definitely want to foul. And there are some coaches in the league that completely agree, with that sentiment. So I think, again, there's more of a debate to be had about it. I think there's some gray area. 1.6, you want to foul, but if you're going to foul, you can't foul a guy as he's going up for a three, and sometimes sometimes that's all in one motion with that little time left. So we've heard Steve Kerr say we don't want to foul in that situation. If there's too much time left, 12 seconds or something, I think Coach Kerr said 7-ish is about when he wants to do it, 5 to 7 or under 7. But 1.6 is its own animal because the clock is an extra defender for the Warriors in that particular situation. So it's tough, and it's not cut and dry. That's the one thing I will say. And again, just to relay what Steve Kerr said, quote, we only wanted to foul if it was a clean foul. Again, worried about maybe it being a shooting foul, and you give the opponent 3 free throws to try and tie the game at that point. But I think the play there, if you're the Warriors, is once you see the ball go into the corner, just crash into somebody before he can even actually have the ball. Now, you need to make sure you do it, like I said earlier, after the inbounds, but just tough. Tough top to bottom, tough to gauge. But, again, if you're saying you absolutely got to foul, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. I think it's a fair take in this situation. I think it's a lot more cut and dry. Or, I'm sorry, it's a lot more of a gray area, and there's a lot more of a debate to it with that little time remaining on the clock. And clearly Wiggins didn't think it was a clear-cut opportunity to have a clean foul before Holmgren was going to be able to raise up. It looked like on the replay he probably could have been able to do it, but the way it all played out, I think in that situation it's better safe than sorry, honestly. It's better safe than sorry to not foul if you're unsure as to whether or not you're going to be able to do it when it's not a shooting foul. Josue in Fremont, 888-957-9570. Hey, Josue.
Yo, JD. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. You caught me mid-sip there. Yeah, I got you. I got you, Josue. You caught me mid-sip there trying to get a little trying to get the throat cleared. But, no, I got you loud and clear.
Yeah, man. Okay, as far as the fouling, I think Chet hit a big shot. I mean, it was contested. You got to tip your cap. But my take is, and you kind of touched on it, but in order for us to have a successful season, we're going to need to be whole. I believe Draymond's on the court, GP2's on the court. We win these games. Obviously, it's not going to be every game, but I just think it's our margin for error is so much smaller. So in order for us to have a successful season, we really need to be strength in numbers. And that's my take. I'm looking forward to the bounce back, but like you were saying, we'll see how it goes. We're going to be hovering around 500 for a couple of weeks, so we'll see how it looks.
Yeah, it's tough, and they are going to be hovering around 400. Around 500. You hope it's not 400. If it's 400, there's going to be trouble. Hovering around 500 for the remainder of the year, and at least for the remainder of the month. But it's a tough situation because I agree with Josue. The Warriors are going to have to be, I think, full strength. As it goes back to, and I'm going to be redundant for those that listen all the time, it goes back to the two different kinds of depth. You love your depth when you have everybody, and I think that's the kind of depth the Warriors have. It's the kind of depth that you love, but you don't love your depth if you're missing key players. And so, you can't win without Steph, and I think that's real shaky, the Warriors having to play without Steph for any length of time. That's concerning, and we've already seen it. But you like the team that you have when you have everybody, because you like the bench group when everybody's in their proper roles. You like Podziemski as an 11. You like Trace Jackson-Davis as an 11, 12 type. I guess Trace Jackson-Davis, who was injured tonight, would be the 11. But him and Podziemski are 11, 12. They're in that third group, but still going to play more than the two-way players, and I think more than Corey Joseph, who is a DNP coach's decision tonight, along with Lester Quinones and Guy Santos. So, yeah, it's tough. A couple of text messages to clean up here on the Comcast Business text line. 510 putting a positive spin on it. The good news is, look how close they've been without Draymond Green in a couple of games against good teams. Yeah, that's true. But when the Warriors have everybody, they're going to have to win at a high level. It can't just be a couple games over 5. Like, if the Warriors have a 20-game stretch where they have everybody, they got to go 15-5. They really do. And maybe they were on their way to that at 6-2, although, again, this losing streak started when the Warriors were still mostly whole. 510 on the Comcast Business text line. Klay was taking shots like you would if you knew the clock was running out, but the clock wasn't running out. Exactly. It was just a lack of awareness on a couple of those shots from Klay Thompson. I think that's an excellent point. They needed to try and wear Chet out. Another person from the 510 writes, by forcing him to run around. Yeah, I think that is also something worthy of noting. And with Draymond, I think they probably would have been able, with a smaller player, to be out there and make Chet have to defend and play both ends and wear him down to where maybe he's not making the shots at the level that he was making. JD, this loss is on you. You were too cowardly during Warriors Live to say Wiggins would have his best game of the season, and because of that, Wiggins didn't foul. Yeah, Wiggins, I couldn't do it, and me doing it hadn't helped him. So I went with Steph Curry. By the way, I did get my take it to the bank prediction, half right in this game tonight. I said Steph would have 4 more threes for a 12th time in 12 games that he's played. He did hit 5 of 11 from 3. I think I also tipped it in there at the end and said, he's going to get a 30-point game also. He didn't get the 30, but he did get the 5 of 11. And, yeah, Steph in this one, 3 of 10 on twos, and a couple of those driving floaters. If those go down, maybe the Warriors wind up winning this game. But they did not. And, again, they made up for it. Looney with the rebound and the kick out to Wiggins, which was a 3 that looked like it was going to prove to be the game winner for Golden State. All right, final couple of minutes. Let's get our hardest working player of the game. Hardest working player of the game for tonight is, as always, brought to you by Alameda County Sheriff's Office, who works hard to serve the community. Are you looking for a career in law enforcement? If you are, you can learn more about job opportunities at joinacso.com. That's joinacso.com. And our hardest worker of the night is going to be Andrew Wiggins. 35 minutes. I mentioned it to be a clean sweep for Wiggs. 31 points, 5 3-point makes. Yeah, you want him to have more than 1 rebound, but he did have a block. He did have 3 assists. His presence was felt, and the Warriors really needed the offense. So Andrew Wiggins is a clean sweep of our post-game sponsor performances. The hardest worker of the game and the extending the 3-point line, 3-point shot of the game with the one that looked like it was going to be the game winner. But, yeah, Wiggins also the hardest worker of the game, brought to you by the Alameda County Sheriff's Office, who works hard to serve the community. A couple other notes here before we call it a night. We do have a couple of callers here. Let's get to a couple of calls, and then we'll hit a couple of notes, and we'll wrap things up. Marty in San Francisco is next. What's going on, Marty?
Hey, what's up?
Marty, are you there? Hey, Marty, how are you tonight?
I'm good, man. I wanted to call and talk about Klay, but then you know what? We didn't have a conversation about Kerr. When is there ever accountability for Kerr? I think that last play, I know you said it's cut and dry. I think if you know the game on a coaching level, with the way the swing was, the OKC was coming back, those shots just happened, you know? So why can't we point the blame at Kerr for this game? Let's have Kerr wear the blame cap tonight.
Look, if you want to do that, I'm all right with it. I mean, I'll hear it. I don't know specifically where you would say it's on Kerr. I mean, that's the one thing I would say. I mean, if you want to say they should have fouled, that's fine. Okay, that's one area you can say. Like, I think you need some specifics if you're going to make that point. And, again, it's a fair one to make. But if you want to say should have fouled, 1 and 6/10 seconds, okay, I'll hear you on that. If you want to say Klay Thompson should have been ripped out of the game, I'll even hear you on that, but you got to have a sub to put in the game at that point. And I don't think anybody was playing well enough among the Warrior bench players, and they only played 4 off the bench, and it wouldn't have been Kuminga or Saric in the game. So really you're saying, were you going to put Podziemski, who had a rough night, or Moses Moody in the game for Klay Thompson with a couple of minutes to go? When you're honestly in scramble mode, the Warriors were down 6, you know, and so you want Klay Thompson, an all-time great shooter on the floor. So I don't think tonight was the night to rip Klay out of the game. Like, I'm just going to say that point blank, full stop. You know, no other add-on to it. Like, tonight wasn't the night to rip Klay Thompson out of the game because you didn't have a better alternative, and you always believe, and the Warriors are on record as saying this, you believe that Klay is going to hit the next shot. And he didn't tonight, but you think he's going to, and that's why you want to have him out there. But those are the two things I'll at least hear you on as far as I'll put it on Kerr. But, yeah, the defensive rotation's not great tonight. Oklahoma City really found some things to attack with this Warriors team without Draymond Green. And the Warriors, I think, played their best 5 down the stretch tonight, and it got them beat because they couldn't defend. And if they had not turned the ball over, then they would have been in position to not be fighting for it and scrapping for it like they had to down the stretch. And so, you know, it all adds up. And it all, unfortunately for the Warriors, turns into a loss that puts them at 2 games under 500. For the first time on this young season, the Warriors are 2 games under 500 and are going to have to fight and scratch and claw to get back to the 500 mark, and it's going to be tough. Rockets on Monday, Rockets have played well. Rockets are another young team that has played well, 6-4 after an 0-3 start. They won 6 in a row, lost to the Clippers last night. Probably should have won the game in L.A. against the Clippers. But James Harden hit a big 3 late in the 4-point play, and the Rockets wind up losing that game. Warriors have been really good against the Rockets the last couple of years, but this is a different Rockets team. This is a Rockets team that's going to come in the chase with a better record than the Warriors. So if there's anything that the last 5 games have showed us, take none of these games for granted if you're Golden State. Bobby in Concord on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Bobby.
What's going on, JD?
What's going on, Bobby?
Look, man, I mean, we love Klay Thompson. We know he's a Hall of Famer, but he's just not doing enough for us. I feel like as a fan base, we expect him to come out of the shooting slump, and it's just not happening. I mean, it's good to see Wiggins finally come in to or be back, but Klay Thompson, man, he took a horrendous shot behind the backboard late in that fourth quarter, and it didn't go in. He had 37 minutes, 16 points. I mean, it's just not good enough. If you want to play some defense, put J.K. in. I mean, what's it going to take for Steve Kerr to have some athleticism on the floor to lock that up?
Yeah, it's just lineup combinations, Bobby. It's just, the Warriors I don't think, are going to put Wiggins out there with Kuminga and Chris Paul and Steph Curry unless they were going to put Kuminga out there at the 5. I thought about it. I'm sure that's a group that hasn't practiced a lot together tonight. And Kuminga typically is guarding wings. We saw Kuminga guard Shea. And at times the last couple of games do a decent job against Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander kind of got off when Kuminga wasn't in the game. But again, the Warriors, I don't think are going to pull Klay Thompson for Jonathan Kuminga down the stretch in a game. I just don't think you're going to see that. Could you have played him at the 5? Maybe, but then he's basically got to, then somebody else has got to guard Chet Holmgren if he's not going to guard Chet Holmgren, and the Warriors don't really have another player that could have guarded Chet Holmgren, which I think is why Looney was on the floor, and because Looney had really hurt the Thunder on the offensive glass, and hurt the Thunder in particular on the offensive glass when he had the rebound that turned into a kick-out 3 for Andrew Wiggins that looked like it was going to be the game winner. All right, final couple of minutes here. Warriors wrap up on 95-7 the game. Warriors are 6-8. They lose to the Thunder 130-123, and they are winless here on the 6-game homestand with 1 game to go and haven't won a game since November the 6th in Detroit. So, yeah, the Warriors, this thing started 10 days ago. They haven't won in 12 days. That's going to have to get turned around. It's going to be 14 days when the Warriors take the hardwood back at Chase coming up here on Monday. All right, couple of notes here before we call it a night. We talked about the 6-8 overall, 1-6 at home, 0-5 in the 6-game homestand. And we mentioned the fact that the last time the Warriors had lost 6 straight overall was right before everything shut down due to the pandemic, February 5th to February 27th of 2020. And the last time they lost 5 in a row at home was also during that season, and over the course of it bridged that stretch. It went before that February 5th date and after, a week after that February 27th date in 2020. Warriors lost 10 in a row at Chase Center in that 15-50 year without Steph and Klay. And from January of 2020 to March 5th of 2020. So, yeah, that's the last time they've lost 5 straight at home, which they have now lost, and are 1-6 overall at home this season. First overtime game for the Warriors. They were 2-3 last year. They had, of course, really struggled to win overtime games for a lengthy period of time, as great as they were even in the championship era. The Warriors had that lengthy streak of overtime losses, but 2-3 last year. Their last overtime game was against Milwaukee in March, a game at Chase that the Warriors won 125 to 116. Thunder trailed by 18. That's the crusher. That's the killer. That's the one that hurts, is the Thunder trailing by 18. The Warriors had them down. You feel like you had the game won, but all those turnovers let the Thunder get back into the game in the third quarter, feel like they had a chance, and then their offense got into a rhythm down the stretch, and the Warriors really just couldn't stop them. The offense did enough, aside from some pretty terrible Klay Thompson shots and poor shot selection, but the Warriors allowing the Thunder to get back in the game in the third quarter via the turnovers and come back from 18 is tough. Largest deficit overcome by a Warriors opponent since 12 this year was the largest. Minnesota did it a couple of games ago when the Warriors lost the close one on the night of the fracas inside Chase Center. Warriors bench did the job again, so Curry comes back. The bench takes on a different shape, and the Warriors outscored the Thunder bench. That's another one that you think, damn, kind of wasted a night where the bench was dominant. The Warriors have been winning with the bench dominant, 33-18 tonight, and the Warriors are still outscoring opponent benches by plus 192 over the 14 games this season. Warriors made a season-high tying 18 three-pointers. That hurts. They hit 18 against the Thunder a couple of weeks ago in OKC, hit 18 at Houston, and that's another one of those notes and stats that make you think wasted it, because the Warriors were able to shoot and had a 30-point advantage. Had a 30-point advantage from the three-point line. Also got to the free throw line 21 times and made 17, so they were only a -1 at the free throw line. But the Warriors did get beat in the paint, 54-36, but more dribble penetration than lack of a true big. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander goes for 40. Most an opposing player has had against the Warriors. De'Aaron Fox had 39 in the game the Warriors won at Sacramento the first week of the season. And a lot of those were points that Fox scored after the game was, for the most part, decided. It did get a little scary in the final minute. I think the Warriors had their lead cut down to 5. But Fox was cooking in that one with the Warriors having a big lead. Steph Curry returns to the lineup, 25 points. extended his NBA record three-point streak of 257 straight games with a three. He's made 4 now in all 12 games he's played, which is a different record. He's the only player in NBA history to make 4 in 12 consecutive games. 4+. Hit 5 tonight and had a few games where he's hit 7. We talked about the season high for Andrew Wiggins. Kevon Looney had 16 rebounds on the night. Kevon Looney had 14 rebounds on the night, not 16 rebounds. 14 rebounds for Kevon Looney. Chris Paul had a double-double for the second time this season and has 32 assists and 1 turnover against the Thunder, which is kind of a random note, but he's played really quality basketball against the Thunder this season so far in 3 games. So tough one for the Dubs. And, yeah, it's a tough one and one that the Warriors are going to have to bounce back from in short order. Right back at Chase on Monday night as they will take on the Rockets. And it's going to take some time. Again, every game you get under 500, it takes you 2 to get closer to 500. And the Warriors have the Rockets and the Suns down in the Valley, and then the Spurs at Chase Center the next 3. That Spurs game the night after Thanksgiving coming up on Friday. And you got to get the Rockets game, got to get the Spurs game, and then you see where you're at with the Phoenix game. You only get 2 of the 3. You're going to be a sub-500 team going to play Sacramento on the 28th, and that's not where I think the Warriors thought they were going to be after the 6-2 start. All right, that'll do it. We'll call it a night on that note. Basically an hour commercial-free here on Warriors Wrap-Up, as I like to do on 95.7 The Game. But I want to thank everybody, including Sterling Bennett in our San Francisco studios. Tremendous effort, as all. We got a lot of people, as I always say, working double days on these Saturdays, working really long days in studio. Terrific effort. Guys that are going to also be working long days tomorrow with our 49ers coverage here on 95.7 The Game, as we'll be on before that game. And then if you're watching it or if you're at the game at Levi's, make sure you flip it on after the game ends for Sterling Bennett and Mark Grandy. It'll be Larry Kruger and Lorenzo Neal from the Hilton in Santa Clara tomorrow, as the 49ers are going to take on the Tampa Bay Bucks. So, yeah, we got you covered even tomorrow as we switch gears for football. And then I'll be back Monday for Warriors Live, 6 o'clock here at Chase. Warriors and the Rockets, and the Warriors in dire need of a win to stop the bleeding. We'll talk to you then, but keep it locked right here in your home for Golden State Warriors basketball, 95.7 The Game. Good night.
Meet Bruce.
Hey there.
He's a busy soccer dad who's trying hard to learn the game.
Go for the end zone.
Whoops. Luckily, other things come easy, like banking with Chase. And a tip from his banker